Peace and War Times. This video is going to be based on how the Black Book 2 was actually a plagiarized work from Afro Unu, aka Johnny Eugene Brown's work, that was written under the name Aminubi Rakapata from 1967 to 1972. And so I just want to make it be known to keep giving respect and honor to the one that actually put the work in, and his Dr. York's cult is still in denial about what they've done, and they just seem to realize that once y'all admit it and acknowledge lightly and quietly in the book that y'all stole this man's work, and y'all still moving on as if y'all hadn't done nothing, is a disgusting disservice. Just wanted to put it on record before we move forward that it says here, so they watched and waited to see if it was Wu Sabat. They knew about Nawapu of Afro Unu. All right, so just wanted to make that information known at the very beginning. So all of the works that we're going to be comparing from the Black Book 2 will go toward just making the case, because again, these videos are being made courtesy of Earl Dackins, who is a dedicated mind zombie of Dwight York's, who made sure he made his business to come over to a Facebook post bother my wife about something when he knows what him and his cult has done. And so therefore, any videos you see me referring to him, for those who know who this dummy is, just understand that he's the aggressor here, and I'm just only responding in kind. All right, so let's get to the Black Book 2. Read 78 through 81, and it says, question, who is the they in the above paragraph? The serpent Amam or Leviathan, the giant sex and spirit force that they use in white magic to rule you. They want you to desire only to be with and love their God and them. They can do anything to you and you still love them. This evil force is able to control people, body and mind, and even nations by sex, lust, and by spirit generated from blood, semen, and the waters of the planet Earth mixing, and this is done by stimulating sex in various ways. So we just read that. So now we're going to go to the Bible Interpretation Explanation Book 1, letter B, written by Afro Unu. All right, letter B, let's go to it. Who was the serpent and how did it beguile Eve? The serpent was Leviathan, a giant sex spirit force who was able to control peoples and nations by sex and by spirit generated from blood and the waters of the earth. Leviathan, who has many spirit members and parts distributed throughout the earth, was cast from the sun approximately 17,250,000 years ago. Okay, just before the evolutionary cycle began. The moon cycle is the climax of evolutionary cycle. The serpent Leviathan is the moon god sin who hypnotized Eve and excited her womanhood by its forces, and in turn, Eve excited Adam's manhood, and go on, so on and so forth. So as we can see here, that this is damn near word for word what Aminubi Rakapata, which is Afro Unu, had stated in 1967. All right, so this is what we mean about their plagiarizer, and Earl and a lot of his dead brain flunkies. They try to use, they say, oh, certain information need to be updated, but that's their new slang for plagiarizer means. They think that it's okay for York and his crew to possess people's intellectual property and move a couple words around and put his name on it and it's good to go. They think that's updating. That's not how update go. Okay, when you updating something and you know it's not your work, you make sure you make it known that this portion of this information comes from this writer. And this writer said this at a certain particular time. And then from that particular time, certain things change. And so I'm adding this, that, and third to it. But see, you can't update things like this because a sex force is still active. Now, a sex force is not the same thing as, let's say, a lifespan, right? Or disease, or the way the earth looked at a certain time. So you could be like, oh, okay, well, it used to be 7 continents based off of X, Y, and Z. But today, there's 10. So then updating will be adding on to what was there. They don't do that. They actually take what York did and put all these extra words in between serpent, leviathan, a giant sex force. Let's look back at that. The serpent, Amam, or leviathan. The word Amam is not there. Okay? That's nowhere in the information. He borrowed that word from, I think, the Sumerian doctrine, because Amam is not in the Kemet information. So, but then he add on that they use in white magic to rule you. That's not how the Caucasian does that. He say white magic. The Bible interpretation clearly states what Leviathan is. There's a spell, right? And spell is interchangeable with magic. But watch this. Upon the Ethiopian and willow-haired people the world over, it is a spell of spiritual ignorance and racial indifference cast upon the Ethiopian by Leviathan from what? The Caucasian and his Bible. Simple. So when you sit here and you use the term white magic, why did he do that? Because York was using the Bible. Remember, he was called Reverend Dr. Malachi Z. York, Rabboni Yahshua. All that's religion. The Bible, the Quran, all that's part of the same thing. So he had to, he changed things, words out of their places. That's what the Quran says about what the Jews did and called them kafir, because they changed words out of the places. York did the same thing multiple times, because Amam is not there in the Bible interpretation. White magic is not there. You see? And so when you are working with sound right reason, sound right reason determines what is right and what is wrong. And that's what Earl and the rest of the brain dead fools can't understand, because they're not working with sound right reason. They're working with unsound left reasoning, descendant reasoning at that. And so sound right reason is who guides us, and Noon is the science. And that's why Earl keeps asking about Afro Uno. Afro Uno is the messenger. Afro Uno is not sound right reason. Afro Uno was guided by sound right reason. Sound right reason and Noon helped him, Sipu and Jipu, do what they needed to do, because they so stuck on a physical person at this point, which is futile. Because even when you get into true culture society after the cataclysm, of course you're gonna have a leader, but the guide is gonna be Newport Noon. But they so stuck on flesh worshiping is why they're not gonna get anywhere, because they don't take turpentine and sulfur, and they're worshiping, and they're using the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, books on Sumer. All these books are spells casted by Leviathan over time in the past. They got all these books on them. That's why these spells. That's why they can't get past nothing. All right. Let's go to number 86. All All right, we're going to deal with the time lap first. When will that time come to an end? Their world ended 9/9/99. 9 to the 9th power 9, the re-emergence of Nuwapu. Number one, that's a lie. Because we had already went through what happened with how Nuwapu was changed to noon in 1973. Go back and watch my videos, Leviathan is a sex force, and I read out the Bible interpretation that the science of Nuwapu will be given at a future time. So when Nuwapu re-emerged, right, when it says that it was time for Nuwapu again, let's see if we can find that. It said Nuwapu is justice, freedom, equality, uncompromising facts, and survival for Ethiopians who accepted in the United States of America and everywhere else by help of the forces of nature. In conclusion, one of the most deceptive and best kept secrets of all time is that Leviathan, Exodus 3rd chapter, 2nd verse. All right, let's look into that real quick. And it says, and the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush, and he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. All right, he said that's one of the best kept secrets. All right, Exodus 4th chapter 3rd verse. Let's see the 3rd verse, Exodus chapter 4, 3rd verse. And he said, cast it on the ground. And he cast it on the ground, and it became a serpent, and Moses fled from before it. All right. Let's see, Numbers 21st, chapter 6 through 9th verse. Chapter 6. Okay, so that's chapter 6. So that's chapter, it's in Numbers 21, 6 through 9. And the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and much of the people of Israel died. Therefore the people came to Moses and said, we have sinned, for we have spoken against the Lord and against them. Thee pray unto the Lord, and they take away the serpents from us. And Moses prayed for the people. And the Lord said to Moses, make thee a fiery serpent and set it upon a pole, and it shall come to pass that everyone that is bitten shall be looked upon it that live. So, all right, so he says, Matthew 3rd chapter 11 verse is God and the devil who deceive and use the Negroes as football, hoodwinking and kicking them, that him and her from one place to another, shifted him and her from one belief ignorance to another. And this means that neither God nor the devil is for the Negro. And so what you're saying is, the point that Amadou Rakapatar, which the Afro was making, is that those quotes they be read, you see where God comes in and tell Moses to do one thing, right, in the burning bush. Then you go to another chapter, you see the people getting punished. Another chapter is something positive. You see what I'm saying? So he's saying that Leviathan is God and the devil, which deals with deception and trickery. And then look what it says down here. It says that it kicks the it said that Leviathan is God and the devil who deceives and uses Negroes as football, hoodwinking and kicking them from one place to another, shifting them from one belief ignorance to another. And that goes for the stand of most black people, because in the case of Earl and them, they done went through 20 different types of beliefs. They don't realize that Leviathan used York. That's why I told you about a name, Yanun, Noon is Arabic for fish. Okay, and they call Leviathan a giant sea creature, a giant fish, whatever. Even in the situation with Jonah, when he said he was swallowed by a whale, it wasn't a real whale, but he was put in the water where Leviathan was, and according to the Hebrew language and to the Aramaic, they knew Leviathan was the ancient dragon that was cast from heaven. So he was in the midst of that water, scared to death, because he didn't want the Leviathan to get him. And we know that Leviathan is in the water. That's why Revelation chapter 12, verse 12 said that dragon that was casted from the heavens, right, came down to the sea. So that's what Leviathan is. Leviathan is called a giant sea creature. So Jonah knew Leviathan was in the water. Now, whether he believed that there was some type of whale or creature, however that one, because when you look into the mythology of it, even when Earl, put up the picture of Leviathan, Hebrew, it said a giant snake. It coils and all that stuff. So this is people are understanding that Leviathan is a sex force and it's a part of the water. So it's called Poseidon and Neptune and all this stuff like that. All right, so let's go to the Black Book again. Okay, say 86 and 89. Our religion, listen, reason more of the religion was designed to last 6,000 years, the duration of the moon cycle that ended in Caucasian Christian year 1962. So in Noon, it tells that the moon cycle ended February 5th, 1962, which is February 5th. All right, so we go to the BIA real quick, 1962. Take that F off. It says the same thing here. The moon cycle, which lasted for 6,000 years, ended in February 1962. Just before the end of each ruling cycle of nature, a mere person is authorized and appointed by the force of nature to determine and disclose to the people, especially those of his own kind, the hidden path, the change in present, and the ruling future. Afro Unu was 36 years old in 1962. Took him a couple of years to research what he needed to research, and he produced the Bible Interpretation Booklet 1, 1967, and then 1968. And he announced in here his first writings recordable in circulation was that the moon cycle had ended. When York started teaching after he got out of prison for statutory rape and having some type of weapon on him, he used to make zip guns with bullets and all that and some other stuff. Correct me if I'm missing any more information. But definitely statutory rape and something else got him 3 years. He got out, ran around in a gang, ended up in 1970, which we listened to it in the last couple of videos. I think Amanubi name was stolen part 1. you hear York saying that he started out going through Islamic circles. Nothing in York's early history tells you he came to tell us that the moon cycle was over. All right, so here it says 62, right? And by York's own writing, he said that the world ended in 9999. That's not true. That's a whole complete lie. So let's move on to the rest of it. So we're going to go to 86 through 89. Let's see here. All right, so the world will end 1999, 9 to 9 power 9 by the re-emergence of Nuwapu. And for the record, nothing in Nuwapu in those books talks about 9 to 9 power 9. All right, he's just making up stuff. He added that in there. And this is why no one before now has been able to really unite the Nuwapian in any considerable numbers. And this is also why the people of Egyptian, Ethiopian, and African descent by blood and suffering, seed, and genes have not been able to dare to make any real progress towards freedom and equality amongst themselves for the help of the Caucasian Amam Leviathan, the god of the Caucasians, who hypnotized, that is enchanted, the Nuwapians with his or her white magic power of 6 ether and sealed the hypnotic spell, hypnosis, with their religious and spiritual ignorance called faith and belief. Mosism, Jesusism, Mohammedism is called a hex or a mojo, abbreviation of Moses and Jesus. The spell enforces racial indifference to self and kind, worshiping their God in their image. All right, so let's jump back to excuse me, to BIAE once again. Bible interpretation, excuse me, an explanation. What is that? Book 1. Okay. Number 1. Let's go back again. You heard he said it was hypnotizing and all that stuff going on. Right? That's what we seen. See, with the help of the Caucasians, and also why the people of Egyptian, Ethiopian, and Africa descent by blood and suffering, seed, and genes have not been able to dare to make any real progress among themselves for with the help of the Caucasian, Leviathan, the god of the Caucasians. Here we go again. There's a spell upon the Ethiopian. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Upon the Ethiopian and willow-haired people of the world over, it is a spell of spiritual ignorance and racial indifference cast upon the Ethiopian by Leviathan from the Caucasian. And this is why no one has been able to really unite the Ethiopian. He took the word Ethiopian out and put Nuwapian. All right. And in any considerable numbers, and this is also why the people of African, see, he added, he added Egyptian and African, he added descent in there, and then he added by blood and suffering, seed, and genes. When you read this here, this is already inclusive, because if you Ethiopian, you are already made of flesh and blood with genes and stuff in it. He just added Egyptian and all that stuff in there, so it'll look like he's updating it if somebody was to run upon this information and realize that this stuff sounds too copy and paste. By Leviathan from the Caucasian, his Bible, this is why no one's been able to really unite the Ethiopian in any considerable numbers. So again, this is basically copy and paste. The word Amam is not there. And again, white magic, power 6 ether, and sealed hypnotic spell with hypnosis. It doesn't say that. It says the Bible, the spell is cast upon the Ethiopian by Leviathan from the Caucasian and his Bible. Okay, so when he's saying white magic or 6 ether, what he's saying, trying to make it sound all hot and official, white magic is not the same as ghost. Ghost comes from 6 ether. Magic is the power of whatever ether or force you're talking about. So you can have ghost forces that use what you would consider magic. But magic is made up of spells. And spells are a certain type of words put together to cast spells. And that's dealing with the Bible. But Leviathan is more than just words or music or sounds. It has a lot to do with it controlling all the spirits on planet Earth and represent the spirit god and goddesses and the orbs. So Leviathan has all this power. He can represent the sun god at one time, the moon god at another one, the earth god at another one, and he can be all three at the same time. So this god of this planet has all types of sun power, moon power, and earth power at its disposal. Okay, so when you start understanding that, things become more easier. Okay, so all right, so he calls them the Wapians, right? So let's deal with that. All right, so when you get down here and say, what is Nawapu? Nawapu is pronounced Nuwapu. The meaning of the word Nawapu is the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Nawapu is all knowledge, all wisdom, and all understanding, finite and infinite. Nawapu is the science of sciences and the science in sciences. It's a spiritual science that existed before the great flood of Noah 17,250,000 years ago. It's the original creative forces, the science. So this is a thing, or an it. It's not a who. You see what I'm saying? Or whom. It's not a they. It's not a them. It's a science. That's like a person saying that math, and then you put an IEN on it and call it Mathian, and then you say, we are the Mathians. But the prefix is math. And we know that math is what? Dealing with numbers and adding and addition and calculus. That's no such thing as a person. So again, you're witnessing Leviathan in the form of altering things out of their places. It's no such thing. And see, he separates it here. So even if York kept the word Ethiopian there and said Nawapians, look how it sets it apart. The standard knowledge in Nawapu is right knowledge. Right knowledge is that knowledge which agrees with nature in its laws and its ways of life and death. Right knowledge is facts without fallacy. Facts are identified by what? Proof, logic, reason, because facts are always logical and they reason out. When all necessary major questions about the Bible have been asked and answered for and known to and understood by the so-called Negro, he or she will be qualified for his and her own spiritual science, which is Nawapu. You see? So Nawapu is something that the person that is called a Negro at this point, because this is in the 60s, will be able to get a science that's giving you something, not someone. And it said Nawapu is what? The spiritual heritage of the Ethiopians in general. And it helps all oppressed people. So again, Nawapu is the thing. You see what I'm saying? It's the what? It's not a who. So when you hear them say Nawapians, know at the time that if those who understand and hear this, that they're lying. It's no such thing as a Nawapian. And if York had put this stuff together and wrote these books, he would have never made such foolishness. But because Leviathan is deceptive energy and trickery, you can't believe nothing he says. Because he's a liar. And Leviathan is the father of it. Leviathan is the devil. It is Satan. It is Lucifer. It is the great dragon, because it came from the sun as hot plasma. And so the ancients knew that the sun was the dragon. And it spit a portion of itself out of itself into space, and it changes chemical structure upon making contact with the moon. Hit the moon so hard that it stopped the moon from spinning and tilted the water, and it came down from the moon in water because they said it interfered with the moon and it's turning, so it had physical contact and interfered the earth in her magnetic field. So not only did it turn its chemical structure into water, then it affected the magnetic field. So now Leviathan has that power of the magnetic field and the magnetosphere, and what else you got? The magnetopoles, the magnetosphere, and I think there's another one like in a bow shock. So all of the energies that are in those three things that cover the earth and protect it from the heat of the sun, Leviathan has that. That's why there's a picture of Leviathan as the world eater, because it's in the atmosphere above the earth, right outside of the earth, and within the atmosphere itself. That's the scientific understanding. So when Earl asked me or try to say I don't know what I'm talking about, it's clear York didn't know what he was talking about, because he's making y'all believe a thing is a who. And it's a science. Too many call it a piece of water.
Time.